Welcome to the Clutch Time Podcast with your host, Daniel Kreider and Ryan Vargas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Clutch Time Podcast, episode 7. Man, a lot of stuff happening in the sports world. We got a new World Series champion, the Atlanta Braves. Got lots of NCAA football and NFL and NBA to talk about. Pretty cool, man. It just continues to elevate with more excitement as we go, you know, the further. And I mean, that's just sports though, but it's fun. It's a fun to see these everything play out. I'd have never thought the Atlanta Braves would be the World Series champions, winning, 4 games, and to Houston's 1. I would have said, no, come on. But other than that, how you guys doing today?
Doing good, man. You're right. I feel like we kept doing our predictions for who we think is going to win the World Series. I don't think we ever picked the Braves. Not that I can remember, at least, which makes it kind of cool.
It does. That's sports, man.
They definitely snuck up in there, but congrats to them. Good to be back with you guys. Took a week off, but we got a lot to cover, man. What's up, Palmer?
Yeah, and this shows why I'm a football guy, but I was hoping for the Pittsburgh Pirates to win it all this year, and boy, was I wrong. I don't even think they got to the playoffs.
No, it was a rough year for Pittsburgh, I think, but they're still a good baseball team. I will say that. All right, so let's get right into it, fellas. Let's go right into the NCAA football. Lots of crazy stuff happening. I was pulling up the rankings, and we talked about it before the show, but just the playoff rankings. We got Georgia at 1, Alabama at 2, Michigan State at 3, who just got beat by Purdue. We got Oregon at the 4, Ohio State at 5, Cincinnati at 6, Michigan at 7, and Oklahoma at 8. Wake Forest at 9, who got beat by the North Carolina Tar Heels, and Notre Dame at 10. Why the AP top 25 is Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Wake Forest. Man, that was a lot to say. I'm out of breath. What you guys got?
Well, for me personally, before we hand it over to our football guy, man, I can't get over the fact that Bama pulled it off with 6 rushing yards. To me, that's just absolutely crazy. But it says a lot about them, that fact that they're still able to win a football game with only 6 rushing yards. I mean, so you could look at that both ways. Cincinnati finds a way to maintain, to stay undefeated. It'll be really interesting to see how it shapes up, and I'm really curious to hear, Palmer, what you think of kind of the standings and how everything's sitting.
Yeah. Well, let me get my mic up. And now for you audio listeners, I'm holding up a whisk because I'm about to whisk you away with these hot takes. And before I do, guys, is it okay if I take a step back? I feel like I need to apologize to the audience for a bad take that I did about 2 weeks ago. If not, that's fine. I will submit a apology on my Instagrams and on my Facebook. But I just wanted an opportunity to clear the air.
Do it.
Okay. All right, let's find the camera. All right, audience. Now I'm just talking to you. It's me, Ryan Palmer, the guest analyst at the award-winning Clutch Time podcast. And I just want to apologize because I said that I believe that Ole Miss was going to be top of the SEC West. And as far as it happened, they lost, and they lost handedly. And I don't think they're the second best team in the SEC West. I think they might be the 3rd or 4th. And quite frankly, guys, I don't think Alabama is going to be the number 1 team in the SEC West by the time this is over. I am really embarrassed. I'm more embarrassed than Urban Meyer's wife after finding out that his husband still got it with the college-age women, and I'm more remorseful than John Gruden after those emails came out from 10 years ago. And this, I promise you, unlike Deshaun Watson, I will not go to Miami to find a new podcast. I will be here to give you quality hot takes. So fans, I hope you can forgive me. Like, share, and subscribe.
I like it. And they got beat by Liberty of all teams. So that was interesting.
I actually think that Ole Miss beat Liberty.
Or no,
They
no,
barely beat them by my standards.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. My bad. They did.
But I want you guys to brace yourself for this. Going back to the college football playoffs, I think we might finally see a year where Alabama and another SEC team are not in the playoffs. I think, and I could be wrong, but the way Alabama's playing, barely beating a team in LSU, who is, I mean, if I was coaching and I knew I wasn't going to coach there the next year, I'm not going to give two craps about what I'm doing. I'm just going to kind of call plays and just be kind of goofy. And that's what Ed Ogeron did. If you guys watched that game, he did this random fake punch where the kid jumped. From a quarterback standpoint, you don't want to leave your feet. He jumps and he throws the ball, gets a touchdown. Like, he was just throwing out random plays. So this guy is clearly not in it because he's not recruiting anymore. He's just basically, I don't know, coaching for the love of the game for the LSU. But they almost lost to these guys. And you can't lose to a team like that in LSU. So come the Iron Bowl, which is their rivalry game between Alabama and Auburn, I think Auburn can get the win. And I hate saying this. I absolutely hate saying this as a Texas fan, but I think Texas A&M right now is really rolling, and they might be the best team in the SEC West and possibly go to the SEC championship game. And if that happens, I don't see a 2-loss SEC team going into the college football playoffs. But I do think what we're probably going to see is going to be, if all things kind of keep going the way that they're going, Georgia number 1, we'll probably see like a Oregon number 2, Oklahoma number 3, and Ohio State number 4 is what I'm calling at the end of the year.
Interesting. I could see that happening.
Super interesting. It's crazy that the Ducks are, I don't know. It's wild, but you're right. I mean, they are up there. I feel like we've seen much better Oregon Duck teams that didn't make the college football playoff. But it's just kind of been that kind of year, so that is super accurate. Ohio State has a tough schedule, and if they do win that out, it's hard to argue that they don't belong in one of those top 4 spots. So that'll be interesting. Palmer, you said weeks ago that you think Ohio State's going to be in the college football playoff. Yeah. And so I've kind of been watching that to see how that shapes up. And yeah, this next few weeks, how that unfolds will definitely be super interesting. But I think you're right. Alabama, I mean, they're 8-1, they're winning football games, but you just get this feel that they're just not the Alabama that we're used to right now. They seem vulnerable in different areas. In that game against LSU, I believe that was in Alabama, correct?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it was in Alabama. So it wasn't a road game or anything, where that you can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. It was a home game against a team that's really shouldn't have been that close. So yeah, I don't know, man. I also agree with you that Alabama might not be in it this year, which would be interesting. I think Georgia's proven that they're definitely the team to beat, and I feel like they've really earned that number 1 spot.
I'll take it a step further. If Ohio State wins out, Michigan will have a new coach this next year, because as it stands right now, Jim Harbaugh has a losing record against Michigan State, which they shouldn't be losing to at any facet, regardless of their ranking. They keep on saying Michigan State's the little brother Michigan. Michigan State's the little brother Michigan. But sometimes the younger brother, like in my case, in the Palmer household, you stayed 5'11", and younger brother got 6'3" and started whooping your ass. And regardless of that fact, that is a standard that you can't have at Michigan. And while Jim Harbaugh is there, he's lost it. He's lost every single game against Ohio State with with Urban Meyer. And then that year when you think, oh, this is the year because it's a brand new coach. Ryan Day's never coached before. He can't coach with Jim Harbaugh. Well, then Jim Harbaugh gets shellacked by him. So I would say that if Michigan loses to Ohio State this year, regardless if they go to a New Year's Six Bowl, they're going to fire Jim Harbaugh.
That is interesting. That's an interesting take, man. I like that, because this was kind of that year for Harbaugh. And right now, Michigan's sitting at 8-1 with that 1 loss to Michigan State.
Yeah.
So if they do end up losing 2 games, they'd end up 10-2 or something close to that, and say they win their bowl game, you think that they will fire Harbaugh after that?
I do, because, and let me just give you a little bit of scope of how much these teams really hate each other. Ohio State actually plucked the Michigan defensive coordinator, just took him, right? And then on top of that, each team has a staff member, like a GA or an assistant coach, or maybe just some random kid they pay $50. But their number one job is to watch Ohio State if they're from the Michigan side, or watch Michigan from the Ohio State side, gather film and come up with a game plan. And when you have that kind of resources going into those kind of games, and yet you're still losing, the thing about Michigan is you have to beat Ohio State. That's part of your contract. They might not say that outright, but if you listen to a bunch of Michigan fans, they're getting really tired of losing to Ohio State, being the little brother of Ohio State. So instead of saying going to a New Year's Six Bowl at 11, I think it's 11-2, but honestly, I think they're going to lose to Penn State as well. So I think they're going to have another 3-loss season, and that's where it's going to tilt the scales to let's find a different coach. And there's going to be a lot of coaching vacancies. Nebraska is probably going to fire Scott Frost. I don't think Florida's head coach, Dan Mullen's going to get fired because, I mean, I think right now they're like 4th in the SEC East and just getting shellacked by the Gold Gamecocks of South Carolina. Yeah. But this is, I don't know if basketball's like this for you guys, but in the football world, the first ones to go are the assistant coaches. Let's fire the coordinators. That's when you know these teams are going to fire their head coach, and they got 1 to 2 years after that. So going back to Michigan, they fired all their coordinators. This is the last go around for Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, typically in college basketball, though, it's the head that goes. They cut the head off right away, and then it's like, you know, pick your staff. And some of the new coaches will keep maybe some guys if he's a good recruiter or something. They're going to keep him as an assistant. But other than that, they usually, so it is different from that aspect, you know, in football. I got a question. Does Alabama, not next week, the week after that, they got Arkansas. Do they beat Arkansas?
Yeah, I think they beat Arkansas. Arkansas is a cute, campy story of a bunch of toothless rednecks who probably shouldn't be good at football, who are really good at football. And yes, Arkansas, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to apologize for it. Look in the mirror. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Stop dating your cousins and let's go to a different college outside than Arkansas. But anyways.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, you don't beat the Longhorns and have me like you. I'll tell you that right now. Plus, I got a lot of toothless cousins down there. Hi, Jim Bob. Anyways, they're a good team. And if you put them in any other conference, you put them in the Big 12, they're possibly number one in the Big 12. You put them in the ACC, they're probably the number one team in the ACC. You put them in the Pac-12, we're not talking about the Oregon Ducks right now. But the fact of the matter is they're in the toughest conference. Texas A&M is really tough. Yes, they did beat them. Auburn's really tough, and I believe Auburn shellacked them. Mississippi State is tough. I mean, I didn't think Mississippi State would have been ranked this year, but they were, and I believe they actually just got beat by Arkansas. I think Alabama's next loss is going to be against Auburn, but I think, and here's the thing about Arkansas too, if you actually watch them, they're just a really run heavy team. Like their quarterback is a big guy. He's like my size, and I'm 6'3", 240. And he runs people over more than he does, you know, actually throw the rock, where Alabama is more of a complete team in that sense. And I think their defense will be able to stop the run. Now, if he's slinging the rock like Drew Brees or something like that, it's possible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can't just grow teeth back after rotting from your gums. So I don't know.
So question, going back to Michigan real quick. I know this is probably highly unlikely, but say Michigan wins out and they beat Penn State, they beat Maryland, and they find a way to beat Ohio State. And say in Alabama, one of the teams in the top 4 ends up taking an L. Can Michigan leapfrog their way up into the college football playoff if they win out with their schedule that they have coming up?
I like the way you're thinking, but the way I put it, it's almost like me getting a date with Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, it's possible. I might meet her at a bar dressed like Urban Meyer and really attract her or something like that. But what are the chances of me actually meeting Jennifer Lawrence nonetheless, asking her on a date and then her saying yes? So it can happen. If they win out, I do see them in the top 4. But I'm telling you, Ohio State is a lot better coached. They have a lot better. I mean, their players, they're just filled with 5 stars. And I don't know if you guys look at recruiting very often, but Ohio State's like top 5 every single year for recruits, and Michigan's kind of sprinkled in at that top 10 to top 15. Can it happen? Absolutely. Will it happen? Most likely not. Jennifer Lawrence, if you're listening, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm single.
What about the Heisman? We talked about that. And I just happened to pull something off. ESPN had a list that I thought was interesting. They had the Alabama linebacker Will Anderson as the number 1 right now. Georgia defensive tackle Jordan Davis at the 2, and then Bryce Young, the Alabama quarterback, at the 3. Pittsburgh quarterback Kenny Pickett at the 4, and a running back Sean Tucker from Syracuse. I thought that was interesting. That's kind of a mix of position. Typically, you see a lot of quarterbacks and running backs in that, and which you had said before, you had thought a defensive guy was going to possibly win the Heisman this year. So, what are your thoughts on those names?
Who? Like, that's my thought. Who? I mean, don't get me wrong. The whole defense. Well, let me get my mic up. The whole aspect of a defensive Heisman player has happened before with Ndamukong Suh, or with that one Hawaiian guy who played for Notre Dame and had a fake girlfriend. I forgot his name. But this does happen. You remember? Oh man,
I just remembered that. I was like,
Anti-Teo. Yeah. So we've been flirting with defensive players winning the Heisman for a very long time, and it just doesn't happen. And if it does happen, it kind of shows how bad the sport is this year. Because let's be frank, the best players who make the biggest impact aren't defensive players, because defensive players can't score touchdowns, and unfortunately, touchdowns win games. And that takes a whole slew of I don't know how to say this, but that's the number 1 factor of how important you are to a team. So when you get like a defensive tackle who becomes the fridge Perry and starts, scoring touchdowns on a 2-yard drive or whatever, that's when we'll start seeing the defensive players actually win. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe this is the year that Jennifer Lawrence just starts DMing me, and then it's all cool. But I think probably that Pickett kid from Pittsburgh will probably win it. If nothing else, we'll just kind of go back to Matt Corral over at Ole Miss or Bryce Young. But I don't think a defensive player is going to win it this year. And if they are, why not that Thibodeau kid? I mean, if you look at the mock draft, Thibodeau, who's the defensive end out of Oregon, he's projected number 1. So how can he be projected number 1 overall in the draft, but not even be considered for the Heisman running? It makes no sense to me.
No, I agree. Yeah, I was, there was some numbers, that Pickett kid that you're talking about has got 3,171 passing yards this year. So the dude is a beast, but like you said, it's, I don't know. I feel like it's always seems to be the ones who are in more. I shouldn't say that, because that hasn't happened every year, but the ones that are usually in the running and in the heavy grid of the competition, I guess it has been before, but college football is so different from anything else. It just is, but it's cool because it gives you a wide variety of guys from all over that you may have, some of us may have never heard of Kenny Pickett. Maybe we didn't watch a lot of Pitt games, per se. So it'll be interesting. This man, these next few weeks are going to be critical for a lot of teams, and it's going to be interesting to watch what happens.
So I'm curious, what are your guys' predictions as far as who do you think is going to win it all this year?
I mean, the fact that you're thinking so hard about this really concerns me for your mental well-being and your decision-making skills. You probably shouldn't get behind a car. Are you kidding me? Are you really thinking about this?
I mean, anybody can beat anybody. So I mean, are you just going to roll with Georgia?
No, UTSA. Let's go. University of Texas, San Antonio. Let's go Roadrunners.
That's your squad, bro.
Yeah, you better not get behind a car there, Mr. Mustache. Let's just slow that car down. You better take an Uber.
Yeah.
Mr. Mustache.
Well, I was getting tired of being the second best looking Ryan on this podcast. I'm like, okay, what's the difference between me and Vargas? He's got a mustache. Now, I didn't know you had the goatee at the end.
I do,
yeah.
man. I do, but it looks like you could grow a goatee.
Oh, I can grow anything once I put my mind to it. But just like those toothless folks over in Arkansas. But yeah, I do think Georgia's going to win it all. Are you kidding me? They're the most complete team. They're going to let's say they face Oregon in the playoffs, they're going to shellac them. They're just going to whoop them. Ohio State could pose a threat. So I guess my de facto team would be Ohio State. But ultimately, I think the SEC has a pretty dominant team in Georgia.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that.
That's what I was just going to say. It's hard to argue that. I'd have to agree. I think it's Georgia's year for sure.
All right, Bulldogs are going to be in the title game, or we all might be fired. Heck, I don't know.
Well, I'm just an analyst, so you guys, I got a whisk for a microphone.
Well, I don't want to have skinny kids, so we got to get something jumping off here. All right, fellas, let's go right into the NFL now. When this has been an interesting week 9, and actually we got the Tennessee Titans are winning 21-6 against the Rams at the end of the third, going into the fourth. That'd be an interesting win for the Titans, especially after LA. You know, their big pickups that they got. This is crazy. Which, granted, this would be the first week that they've had them, and I'm not even sure, honestly, because obviously I'm not watching the game if they're playing or if they are sitting out this week and going to be right back in the mix next week. I know Von Miller was dealing with an injury, so I did know that. I'm not sure to the extent. I think it was a sprained ankle. I think he got in practice, I believe, in Denver. So before he left, so it'll be interesting. That's that's going to be a hard team to argue against, honestly. You got the Cleveland Browns putting a schlacket on the Bengals. Man, they beat 41-16. The Cowboys, man, took a nice little dagger against the Broncos, Von Miller's former team. It's been crazy because after these guys are leaving their teams, it seems like the teams played some of the best games they've played all year. When they're, I'd say those two are pretty key guys, leave the team. And it's just interesting. It's interesting to see those things unfold.
I was very impressed with Arizona, man. Still being able to pull out a W without Kyler Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins. And I was watching. We'll see how this game ends up with the Titans and the Rams. But Tennessee Titans, they're a good football team. They're a very good football team that I don't know a lot of people are talking about. And I mean, I'd say for me right now, I have them as probably my top team in the AFC, along with Arizona and the NFC. But I mean, it's at that time of year where teams are starting to figure other teams out. And I think you really see the teams that separate themselves based off who can make adjustments. And going back to that Dallas game today, Dallas had no answers for Denver.
Yeah.
And I mean, throughout the whole game, the score ended up being 30-16, but Dallas must have scored within the last couple minutes, because when I turned it off, they hadn't even scored yet all game. And so, yeah, you just never really know, man. But watching Tennessee, I was very impressed with them. And then I might have read that wrong because I didn't watch, but did the Jaguars really beat the Bills today?
I'm glad you said something. They sure in hell did. Let's go fighting urban grinders. That's what I'm gonna start calling.
I'm with Urban. We still got to get those T-shirts.
Yeah. He won off the field and now he's winning on the field. So I think ultimately every year, this one might get me in trouble, but in order for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be popular, we need to involve a young co-ed woman in a bar scandal with Urban Meyer. Because as it sits right now, he's like 2-1 after that incident.
He really is.
Whoever you are, nameless, faceless young woman, please email the program. This is the Clutch Time Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell us who you are, and let's get you on for an interview, because you're the glue that holds the Jaguars together.
I guess. What about that Packers and Chiefs game? They, I mean, it was still a close game, 13-7. The Chiefs actually won. That Jordan Love kid didn't look too bad at all. I didn't think. I mean, he threw an interception, I believe, but the Packers defense looked good. Their offense wasn't clicking. Obviously, you're going to miss a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on, we got to be honest there. But I would have looked for Kansas City to do a little more without Rodgers in there. I feel like if Rodgers would have played that game, I think they would have beat Kansas City based on the way that game played out. That's just my opinion. I think so. I think, and he's taken way too much heat for all this. I won't even get into that because that's a whole nother conversation. That's absolutely idiotic and stupid. But nevertheless, the Chiefs pull a big win out there. And they're still in the running. I thought they were going to be out, but especially with this win, that really puts them in the mix of everything.
Which is surprising, man. I think that was probably, that win could have potentially saved the Chiefs season right there. Because had they dropped that game, especially without Aaron Rodgers even playing, man, I mean, it'd be hard to picture them bouncing back from that. But you're right. That whole Rodgers thing, man. And I just got to say, man, I'm so sick of Stephen A. Smith, man. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys see him popping off every single day about all this stuff? The way he was bashing Kyrie, the way he's bashing Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, and my opinion on it, like, dude, if you're going to bash somebody because their jump shots broke, or they're throwing interceptions, like, that's one thing. Do your job. That's what you do on there. But man, he's taking like personal shots at these men. And it's just, it's frustrating to see.
Well, let me just say this too, that it's not just him. I actually have toned way back from even listening to any of these guys that have bought into all this garbage. And it's like, you know what? Stay out of the political avenue. Stay out of people's health decisions, and putting them on blast and saying they don't care about their team but did one of these guys, ever really look into this as far as we don't really know the long-term effects of this, number one, and none of them guys are scientists. None of them guys are doctors. So they have no business getting into anybody's stuff. Oh, he don't care about his team. No, he does care about his team. That's why he goes out there and takes a beating every week and tries to get his team, W's. As far as his vaccination status, let him make his own decision, because we don't know. This guy, he's thinking, some of these guys, there's not enough facts behind what they're selling. So it's like, there's not enough, science to back up the fact that this is safe. Who knows? In 5-10 years, it might be like, oh my gosh, now everybody took this vaccination. And, but either way, even if that isn't the case, we live in what's called the United States of America. We are supposed to be, freedom of choice, right? How is it freedom of choice for people to kill a baby, but because you don't want to get a vaccination shot in your arm? Besides that, all of us unvaccinated, unmasked people, this has been going on for a couple of years now. We should all be dead, right? Okay. I think they all need to stay out of that avenue and stay in their lane, so to speak. Like they like to tell so many other players, stay in your lane, talk about the game and what you know. Quit talking about crap that you have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, and I just want to reach back to the hypocrisy, and I don't mean to be a Deshaun Watson hater, but we have a guy here who has multiple tens upon tens, I think about 20 sexual assault allegations and sexual harassment. So what do we care more about? A guy who is isolating himself from the team, kind of keeping everybody safe from getting the COVID, if that's so dangerous, or someone who has victimized women, multiple women, and could possibly be traded to another market to victimize more women? It's complete hypocrisy. Here's the thing, just like what Dan was saying, it is your choice. You know what else is your choice, but is also illegal? Sexually assaulting women. So how about Stephen A. Smith? Why don't you put Deshaun Watson's feet to the fire? I mean, you're going to put Gruden's feet to the fire after these emails. Let's actually do the sexual assault cases. And then if I can, we kind of got off a little bit, but I kind of want to just bring us back with Jordan Love, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But by the way, there also was a guy by the name of Ruggs, real quick, who was flying 168 or 160 down the highway, killed a young lady. And
where's that?
Exactly. Where is that? Anyway.
Well, and well, just to speak on that, a lot of that is condolences, and absolutely there should be condolences, because one, someone died, right? Somebody lost their family member, And this guy did ruin his life. And I do feel bad for him because it's not hard to drink and drive. You know, that's what happens. That's why you're not supposed to, because it impairs your judgment. So I do feel bad for this kid. But you're right. We're gonna give condolences for this kid who broke the law and killed somebody, or we're really just gonna crucify this guy who decides not to get what is called the Fauci ouchie. It's completely ridiculous. But going back to Jordan Love, it is possible that we could see another Brett Favre transition in Green Bay. And what I mean by that is Brett Favre was pushed out by a younger, more long-term, more athletic, quote unquote, Aaron Rodgers. This might be the situation that pushes him out. Now, whether Jordan Love is able to get to that challenge or I forgot the terminology, match the challenge, just match the expectation.
Right.
If next game, if he does that, it's possible that he can take that starting job and push Aaron Rodgers out. And then on top of that, if you actually listen to the media and how they handle Aaron Rodgers, regardless of the COVID stuff, he's a diva. He's not good for the team. He's all about me. He's dating an actress. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to host Jeopardy. Like the media and a lot of people in Green Bay are not necessarily happy with Rodgers. They're happy with the product that's on the field, but they're not happy with Aaron Rodgers as the man. I mean, he's a Californian kid who went to Berkeley, playing in the Midwest. Do you think their political and their spiritual ideologies match? Absolutely not. He's probably just an annoyance. But this Jordan Love kid, he's kind of like a Josh Allen prototype. Small school over at Utah State, huge arm, huge ceiling. He's just undefined. He's a diamond in the rough. So it's very possible with the COVID stuff going on with Aaron Rodgers, and then if Jordan Love produces on the field, he could be the next quarterback, probably in the next 2 years to quote unquote take him to the Super Bowl, whether he can or not.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, but you're right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was a little upset that they even drafted him in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron Rodgers is just the type of guy that you're not going to control him. You know, he's not going to bow down to the narrative that you want him to push. He's going to speak his mind. And I think he's shown that with how this whole thing is being handled right now with what's going on with him. You know, I mean, he came out and said cancel culture is going to try to cancel me, but he basically said he doesn't give a damn. You know, like, which I mean, for me, I respect just him just speaking in his mind. You know, we have to respect that because that's something that's just kind of getting taken away from a lot of people. And most people are just okay with it for whatever reason. So seeing that, it's funny because, I mean, seeing when Aaron was drafted and I remember watching him play at Cal, but, you know, he's kind of like the old school guy now in the NFL, you know, which is interesting to think about. But if the Packers do get rid of that, man, that'd be crazy because he's got a lot left for sure. I think with Rodgers, I don't think we're going to see anything of him trying to play like as long as Tom Brady does. I think he's kind of hinted at that before. Like he's okay with moving beyond football, but it would be kind of cool to see him maybe go somewhere else in a different system in a different state and see what he can do because that man's a freak.
I think that's more likely too. I do think Green Bay is going to get tired of it because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play in Green Bay. And frankly, who does? I mean, I'm not from the Midwest, but I lived in Kansas for a little bit. I know how the winters are. It's awful. And he probably wants a place where he can be more free, have an actual owner. I don't know if you guys know this, but Green Bay doesn't necessarily have an owner. It's
they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So he probably wants to be a part of an actual football organization for his last couple of years.
I got a hot take.
All right, go for it.
Take.
Let me get your mic up to you.
I haven't put much thought into this, but Aaron Rodgers is going to play for Sean Payton and the Saints.
Ooh. Ooh, I like that, actually. That's a good one.
How filthy would that be? They need a quarterback. They play in a dome. Sean Payne's a quarterback coach. I think that if he was to go somewhere, I think that would be a perfect fit.
Man, I was going to say that or one of the California teams. You know, he might want to go back home, but, you know.
I would actually say the 49ers. That would be my take on it. Because he's a 49ers fan, and when Alex Smith got drafted over him, he took it personally. So you get him in oh crud. I want to say Sean McVay. That's LA, but I forgot the guy's name.
Kyle Shanahan.
Thank you, Kyle Shanahan. That would be another filthy coach quarterback tandem. And Dan, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to.
No,
I see
you're
you over disgust.
no, no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be man, both of those are really good. Man, that'd be fun to see. Man, I don't know. I kind of honestly, I like that fit with the Saints a little better, but I could see him wanting to go to the 49ers. I mean, I think he grew up watching, Joe Montana, as well. And so so that's kind of the system he always, I think, wanted to get to eventually. But yeah, that would be interesting. But this Jordan Love kid, man, going back to him I was impressed. I was impressed. You could see that there was a little bit of youthfulness still, not quite. But man, I could totally see him, like you said, give him a couple years. And I believe that kid has a chance, obviously, we don't want to make ridiculous expectations. I'm not going to say Super Bowl or nothing, but he's going to be a major player amongst quarterbacks, ratings and whatnot, that I think the kid's got a chance to do something really great, and it would be fun to see that. And yes, you are right there. Green Bay, the reason why people like playing in some of those cities, like your St. Louis's and Green Bay's, yeah, the winters suck, but the fans are 100% loyal, and they're some of the best fans in sports, and I think that's what keeps people around. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of this season, you're starting to see that, pre-separation happening, that they're going to break up. I think by the end of this season, I think going into next season, I could see them, parting ways.
I don't want to take anything away from Jordan Love, but the thing is if Jordan Love actually, I'll say when Jordan Love's successful, it's not because of his talent. And let's make no mistake, just to get to the league, you're very talented as a player, but it's the organization and the culture that he was adopted into. Green Bay is a phenomenal organization, and they don't have too many losing teams. And I don't want people to hear this and be like, well, you just said early on that, it's a bad organization because Aaron Rodgers doesn't. No. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like the organization. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like how it's conducted. However, name the last Cleveland or Detroit-like season that Green Bay's ever had. I mean, I grew up, I'm 31, with Green Bay always being in the hunt for the NFC Championship, always going to a Super Bowl. I mean, Green Bay's been in a hefty amount of Super Bowls in my lifetime, like New England. So I think regardless of Jordan Love's talent, I think the coach is going to be good enough to scheme around his talents, and he will be successful. But I do want to take one more step back. Ryan, that take was really good about New Orleans because they do need a quarterback. The difference between New Orleans and San Francisco drafted a kid. They have to give him the reins.
Right.
New Orleans doesn't really have that quarterback. They want to win, and they want to win right now, and they have those pieces. Put Aaron Rodgers in the good black and gold, and it's Mardi Gras all over again, baby.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like I say, I like that. I could see him and Sean Payton, man, that would definitely be a good mix. And that'd be fun to see.
I thought I was the football analyst here. I might as well start talking basketball with that kind of hot
way.
take.
I think you were correct too by the Green Bay thing. I think the last time the seasons that they were really bad was Mikowski was their quarterback, which would have been pre-Brett Favre, like way back. Brett Favre played for like 120 years. So, it's that dude was that was another one that was a beast. That's one thing they did well was draft quarterbacks. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. It's funny how history is literally repeating itself right now, because you're right. This is exactly what happened that got Brett Favre out the door. And what's cool is actually seeing teams, franchises allow their next man up to develop a little bit, especially under legends like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. And so, and we were talking before the show about Odell, how he's the type of player who needs to play for a quarterback he respects. And I think Rodgers is that same type of player. especially at this point in his career. You know, I don't think he wanted to play for a new coach coming in trying to prove himself that is his age. You know, I think in a system like an offensive friendly system, not to mention he gets to play in a dome for all of his home games instead of freezing weather, you know, and for Sean Payton, man. So that'll be interesting. I don't know contract wise where he's at. I believe is he a free agent after this year?
It's either after this year or the next year, but
I
honestly,
think it might be next year. I can't remember.
Okay.
All he has to do is have his dad send out some sort of tape of how his players suck. That's what Odell Beckham, by the way, did to Baker Mayfield. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's how he got released.
Oh,
His dad sent out I think you even find on YouTube. It's basically every missed throw that Baker Mayfield made to Odell Beckham Jr. So then they said, "Hey, you know, Odell, why don't you stay home for today? Second day, stay home for the day." And then boom, he's out.
Hey guys, also remember this. There was a certain guy that was in New England and he was the quarterback and his name was Drew Bledsoe. And he ended up leaving and going to the Saints when Tom Brady took the reins in New England. So you're kind of looking at a similar situation here. And that would be interesting. That would be interesting to see him, in my opinion.
So I think we should make 2 shirts then. One I'm with Urban, and then Mardi Gras with Aaron, or something like that. He's going to the Saints, baby.
We're going to the Saints. Oh man, that would put them up there, that's for sure. But awesome. All right, Ryan, Palmer, we appreciate all your football insight. We are going to move on to our next segment. We thank you, appreciate everything, and we will see you next week, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. Just to let you guys know who listen to, say, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we do have a YouTube channel. This is the Clutch Time Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you give me 200 likes on this next video, I will send out a DM to Jennifer Lawrence, seeing what she's doing.
I like it. Come on, everybody. We got to get behind that. Everybody do that. Let's do it.
Yeah, I need a new ex-wife. But hey, guys, have a good show. I can't wait to listen.
All right. Appreciate you, Paul. Have a good one, man.
Bye.
That's always, he's awesome, man. He's always so much fun to have on. So yeah, moving on to the MLB as well, you know, going back to the Braves. Did you get to see any of the World Series, Ryan?
You know, Danny, I gotta be honest, man. I watched highlights. I didn't watch any full games, man. So you're gonna have to drive this one home for us.
No, it wasn't. There's really not much to talk about. They won it. I mean, there is, but the main story is just solid baseball. I mean, this was a team who going into July, you know, was never in the conversation. They made some really huge moves, which obviously paid off immensely. And, you know, Max Fried, that last game, I don't think everybody understands. And I guess I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of people that understand to a certain extent. Going into a situation like that, even when you have the momentum going your way of pitching in that game, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And one of the ways is some pitchers fail miserably at it. You know, in this particular case, I wouldn't necessarily, I would say failed miserably was Houston's pitching in that game. You know, the Braves hammered. Between their pitching, you know, Charlie Morton getting hurt, you know, honestly, that was the best thing for him to pitch that well of a game because, you know, you're losing guys, but man, their bats were on fire. I mean, just great quality at bats. And they just, they made it happen, man. They moved guys on the bases, got guys in, had some nice shots. Soler hit an absolute bomb. And I mean, the dude was just, yeah. So good for Atlanta. You know, they got great pitching and they made the right swings at the right time to get guys around. And so congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. Now, one other thing I do want to talk about is the notable free agents after this World Series, which is going to be Javier Baez, the shortstop for the Mets, Brandon Belt for a first baseman for the Giants, Chris Bryant, who was playing third for the Giants, Nick Castellanos for the Reds. We got Carlos Correa, the shortstop for the Astros, Freddie Freeman at first base for the Braves, Clayton Kershaw, Starling Marte, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, Max Scherzer, Corey Seager, Noah Syndergaard, and Justin Verlander are all free agents this year. That could get interesting. I mean, very interesting. The only one I would think I really believe is more than likely going to re-sign is going to be Freddie Freeman with the Braves. I don't know. I feel like he's been with that organization so long. I mean, he just won a World Series. I don't see no reason to make that move to go anywhere else. I mean, you just got some huge key players that are going to be there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in that market, but I would like to see St. Louis pick up, one of these guys. That would be pretty nice. Preferably pitching. I mean, Noah Syndergaard, Max Scherzer. I mean, Max Scherzer is actually a St. Louis guy. Why are we not bringing him to St. Louis? He's from St. Louis.
Makes sense.
So let's make it happen, St. Louis. Let's do it. Which would put them in. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing to see him in St. Louis, hometown. I mean, I think he would want that as well.
So going back to the Braves real quick, you'll have to fill me in. So I know teams like, especially, I mean, we talked a lot about the Dodgers, and, I guess the term as far as basketball goes is super teams. They have a lot of big name players who are very impactful. Is that the case with the Braves, or were they more so of a team with maybe not as big of names? They just had the chemistry and were hot at the right time.
Yeah, I don't think they had as big of names but they got a lot of young guys that are playing really well. Freddie Freeman's probably the longest term of most of them guys on that squad. But the cool thing about that whole situation is you got a guy who has been with the organization, who's the head coach for years and years and years, and so it's kind of cool to see all this kind of come to pass. And but they got a lot of key young guys. I mean, I mean, they got guys. And by the way, they don't even have one of their real studs, which is Ozuna, who is he's been hurt, since July, maybe, or something. So he wasn't even in the postseason. So if you add him into the mix with everybody else, wow. I mean, they're got a chance to be good. And I'm talking like back in the days when they had Schmaltz and Maddox and, David Justice and, just all these, they were a super team in the 90s. They were that super team. They had that seemed like they had everybody. And if they didn't get them, they soon would get them. It was that kind of thing with Atlanta. So it's always been a tried and true organization. They've always been super good. So I think that Atlanta will be around for a while. I can't see them just letting this just go to waste, basically, and I think a lot of it is going to determine, I think you're going to see some of these other teams stacking up a little bit to be able to play with your, Los Angeles Dodgers. And, really you look at the Dodgers and the Giants had the best record in baseball, period. And, they're not in the World Series, so it's, of course, one knocked the other out, but nevertheless, right. You would think, somebody who's won 104 games, it's like, gosh, they got something going. Now, granted, in LA's defense, they had a lot of guys hurt, they had, some things going on as far as that goes, which, definitely obviously played a role in them not going any farther. But I mean, gosh, they had so many guys on their bench. I mean, you had Albert Pujols coming off the bench. I mean, my gosh, this is one of the greatest hitters of all time, so,
Right.
and, this is who you have on your bench. It's like you're bringing guys out that would probably be killing in starters on any other team. I think Chris Taylor ended up filling the third base position when Turner got hurt, so, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see next year. Baseball, it always really comes down to that is usually because it's such a long season, as long as you stay somewhat consistent. But if you have any key injuries, man, it can really do some damage unless, and look at LA, look how loaded they were. And they still couldn't turn. I mean, they had Betts, they had Seager, I mean, my gosh, they're loaded, so earlier in the year, I thought, even when the playoffs started, especially after they beat the Cardinals, the Cardinals almost beat them. It was just one pitch that ruined it. Actually, two pitches, sorry. And one of them was the closer coming in at the end, through that, that ball that Taylor hit, that 2-run home run and put them out. But nevertheless, they're a deep team. And so even when you're super deep, I mean, it don't guarantee you. It puts you in a better situation, but it don't guarantee you anything. I think you're going to see guys start to beef up on pitching, and just some of your key players. Just think about it. You look on this list. One organization that has always been. Of course, I'm a Cardinal fan. Keep in mind, but the Chicago Cubs got to be the most ignorant organization I've ever come across. The only thing they ever did right was get Epstein in there, which obviously got them to the point where they won the first World Series in 100 some years. But then you do something like that, and these morons end up trading away Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber, who was all very effective in the postseason with the teams that they're playing with now, by the way. So why you would have those three guys on the same team and not any longer, it's almost like, oh, I'm sorry. And also four guys, which Baez wasn't in the postseason, but you had Javier Baez. That was, they unloaded four guys that were, I think super good players, and, Kyle Schwarber was more of a, DH, but, Anthony Rizzo, I mean, had good games with the Yankees. Bryant had some really good games in the postseason with the Giants. I mean, yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother deal, but, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where all these guys end up. There's some teams that could really use, some of these guys, and I wouldn't be opposed to St. Louis making a run at Correa, Carlos Correa. That would be, I don't know if he would want to go to St. Louis, or Corey Seager or somebody in that, not that they are in dire need of a shortstop necessarily, but I would rather see him get some more pitching, because that seems to be their struggles, is pitching is hard anyway, because, you want to talk about keeping your body ready. You're throwing 100 some pitches every 3 or 4 days, that's, you go through that many games in a season and it starts to weigh on you a little bit. So,
well, I'll tell you what, when I saw Trump and Melania at that Braves game and the whole crowd going wild, I knew it was game over. I knew it was a done deal after that.
I mean, they were, yeah, that was cool. That was cool. All right.
That's pretty sweet.
Here we go. Let's move on to the NBA. Man, dude, I will say this. Golden State has impressed me big time this year. Steph Curry he's a freak, man. He's a freak. And it's fun watching them play. And right now they're the best team in the league right now at 8-1. The Sixers are behind them at 8-2. But everybody's still in the running here. The Jazz is, they took a little beating this last week. And it's funny because my sister actually messaged me and sent a picture of her at the Bulls game and said, man, we got tickets to the Bulls game. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I was like, although they are playing the Jazz, who hasn't lost yet. she's
Yeah.
like, they're going to win tonight. And sure enough, she sent me a picture later on and they had beat the Jazz, and
Yeah.
basketball, I will say the NBA, as far as it's starting out to be one of the more fun seasons that I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah. I
And
agree with that for sure.
It's more balanced,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought up the Warriors right off the bat, man, because you got to give where credit's due. And I mean, talk about preseason or not preseason, but MVP already. I mean, that dude's on another level talking about Curry. Just, he's always had the skill, but it's cool when you see players at this point in their careers like him, because you could see their mind is different now. As far as like the game has completely slowed down, and it's just it's art, man. Watching that guy play basketball is cool, and it's cool because the Warriors have fought hard to get back to where they're at right now.
Right.
They've been beat up. They haven't just maintained throughout this whole time. They take their lumps. They've been embarrassed. And they're winning now. And this is all without Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Who's going to be back around, I think around Christmas time is his goal, but it's just impressive. And, hats off to that organization, to Steve Kerr, to Steph Curry. The Chicago Bulls, though, man, they're a fun team. They're a very fun team to watch. And, they started off, I think 6-0 or something like that. I think they've lost 2 or 3 games now.
They've lost 3 now. So yeah,
they've lost 3 now. So they cooled off a little bit, but they're just fun, man. They're entertaining. They're very unselfish. I guess a better word for fun is they're unselfish. That's what makes them fun to watch.
Yeah.
They don't have that guy that's seeking all the attention, and they got talented guys, but any given night, any one of those guys could go off. And it's cool to see Lonzo find a home, find a system where he's able to be himself and be creative. And the fact that dude's changed his shot and right before our eyes, that's that's pretty cool, man. So one more thing, I'm also very impressed with Philly. I think they're at the top of the East right now.
They are
able to do that throughout all the drama that's been going on over there. Ben Simmons still not being with the team, and then coming and being with the team, and then being told to go home, and then it being a mental thing, is so he claims, and whatnot. But I mean, the dude just got fined $360,000 for missing a game. So it's going to be interesting to see how long this holdout happens, because I don't think they can repair it, but I think he's going to have to go show up and be there and listen to the crowd in Philly. And it could be kind of a dramatic thing.
Yeah, I would love to, I know we don't have that kind of pull yet, but maybe one day, but I would love to just, even if it wasn't on the podcast, or even if it wasn't, just to really sit down and really hear his side, his complete side of the story, to see how did we get to this point, and then especially when you're watching your team and they're still winning, they're at 8-2, with the, an 800 winning percentage. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't fully get it. I mean, I feel like Doc Rivers, I feel like he would be a fun coach to play for. I mean, it seems like most of the teams he's had, all the players loved him and respected him, so I don't know if something else has happened, or maybe it is with him. I don't know, but yeah, and then, you got, Miami and Brooklyn are right behind them, but nevertheless, that's a pretty big statement to hold those teams off. One team that I am surprised, and not surprised, but kind of surprised, is the Wizards are starting out really well.
Yeah.
They picked up Kuzma, they got Bradley Beal, and it's man, they're sitting at 7-3. So, it's crazy because you got Washington, who's down the line at 4-6.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with Philly too, sitting at the top of the East right now, I don't think that they'll stay there, because this year they're going to have to rely so much on Embiid, and his body, I don't think can handle that.
No.
Without Simmons, I think the absence of Simmons won't show at first, but as the season prolongs and as they get kind of 50 games into the season, 40, 50 games in the season, how many of those games is Embiid actually going to be out there for? And it's not taking shots at him. It's just he's a huge body, man, and his body doesn't hold up very well.
No.
And when he would miss games, Ben would always be there to kind of do his thing and kind of lead the team. And without that, it'll be interesting to see how they maintain when he's not able to be on the court.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. And, does he last? I say he's going to be out hurt with a little stint, and I'm not hoping this on him. I hope he don't. I hope he just, plays through it. But nevertheless, if I was a betting man, I would say that, he'll be out hurt before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
For
sure.
I mean, and there again, these guys are playing so many games, tons of games. And, I know a lot of times we go out and call, a lot of this new age basketball, this new NBA, so to speak, as soft, but them guys still get beat up every night. They're still, especially when it comes to the big guys. I should say that correctly. When it comes to the big guys, these guys are still banging in there a little bit. It's not nothing like the days past with, your Chicago Bulls and Detroit and New York Knicks. It's not nothing like that. But I mean, these guys are still, they're out there getting hammered, and putting their body through some pretty, and like you said, when you're already just a big guy, the bigger guys like that tend to have more issues anyway,
Yeah.
and it's just like you said, it's good to have that. That's one thing I feel like the Lakers took into consideration when they brought in, Jordan and Howard. Let's give AD a little bit of, let's have a backup. Let's have somebody ready for him, and I feel like that's just smart. Now, granted, they're a little older themselves, but they could still fill in those gaps. I feel like, although the Lakers haven't been, they're sitting right at 500 right now, but yeah, and it's another thing that I'm interested in with the NBA is to see how the Phoenix Suns go forward after this whole owner issue.
Yeah, same, man. Where's Phoenix? They're sitting at 4 right now, at 5-3.
Yeah.
That will be interesting to see how that pans out, to see how that affects the team. In a good way, or in a bad way. I guess only time will tell with that. And that might be something that gets prolonged or dragged on for a while with the investigations and whatnot. Right. Me personally, I don't think it'll have a big impact on them. It will be interesting to see. But going back to the Lakers real quick, man, 5-5. If playoffs started today, which we're far from, they wouldn't make it. Are you surprised? Are they right? Are they exactly what you thought they would be this year? Do you think that they're just starting off slow and they have this master plan of turning it on at the end? What's your take with them?
Well, I'm going to say this is I feel like this is just, I don't know if this is what's going on, but LeBron was hurt for a little bit, for a few games there. By the way, they've been beat by the Oklahoma City Thunder twice, who is sitting at 3-6 right now. So 2 of those wins were against the Lakers. I don't know. I can't really tell. It's hard to get a good feel for LA right now because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, did he watch The Last Dance and he's thinking, okay, I need to get my guys, tougher. I need them to be able to do it on their own and kind of, that's the only thing I'm thinking of, because it's almost like this shouldn't be happening, not with the squad they got. Yes, they're older. This still should not be happening, So LeBron, are you testing the squad to figure out, hey, Westbrook, can you handle this? Can you handle running the show? If I got you in there bringing the ball up the floor, Can some of these guys, take it without him being there, or does he have to be that guy that always comes in to? So I don't know if that's it. Maybe it's just a legit injury and they're just off to a rough start. Because that can happen too. Just because you got a bunch of notable names and guys that look amazing on paper, don't mean because a lot of these other squads ain't no joke. The Sacramento Kings ain't no joke, and they've kind of been at the bottom for a while. Nuggets, Grizzlies, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Jazz, Golden State. I mean, you got a lot of heavy hitters in the West, and the East, really, even if they play some teams from the East. I mean, it's I don't know, man. I really don't know what to think of the Lakers right now. Besides, I know a lot of their fans got to be, severely disappointed right now, especially when they're watching the guys up north at Golden State, lighting the scene up.
I just don't think anybody's scared of them.
No,
quite frankly. I don't think anybody looks at the Lakers like, dang, we got to play LA. And I think if we were to pinpoint the problem on them, and it's weird saying this because it's a dude who should be the MVP of the league, but I think their biggest problem is Anthony Davis. I really do. And the reason why I say that is he doesn't have that mindset. And I know you know what I'm talking about when I say that mindset.
Exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's hard to even explain because it's not something you could, I don't know. It's not something you see on paper, because you look at the dude's box score and he fills it up, he does. But it's almost like they are always trying to get him to realize that they need him to be the guy. And he's very quick to
pass the buck.
On that, and you see that with players, and it's not an abnormal thing. Like there's very talented players who just don't have that, whatever it is, that gene, whatever it is, that killer mindset. Like I'm going to go out there and get my team a win no matter what. And I think that really hurts the Lakers because LeBron's at the point in his career where he needs somebody else to carry them majority of the time, and not only is that mindset not there with Anthony Davis, but he's very fragile on top of that.
Very,
and when he's not in the game, I mean, now you're dependent on Carmelo Anthony, who's had a great season so far with them, but I mean, you're dependent on Russ, who is having a hard time playing with Braun, which we kind of saw coming anyways, because Russ needs the ball in his hand. He doesn't know how to play off the ball, but he's going to have to play off the ball with LeBron. Mm-hmm. I think, in my opinion, I think that they're right at where they're going to be. I think they're going to be a 500 team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get left behind in the West this year, to be completely honest, because you can't mess around in the Western Conference. And you don't have a lot of wiggle room. The Clippers, too, are struggling as well. I just don't think the Lakers are good enough and young enough and will be healthy enough to be like, all right, let's turn it on. Playoffs are around the corner. I just don't see that with them anymore.
I don't either. And I think a lot of it, too, could be, clash of egos. But going back to Anthony Davis, I don't get it. I don't get what people don't get. That's just not him. So many teams and organizations have tried to make him something that he's not, and he's not ever going to be. He's never going to be that man. He's never going to be the man, the leader. Come on, jump on my back. I'll take you to the promised land. He's never been that guy, and he's never going to be that guy ever. Mm-hmm. Just like Russell Westbrook is never going to be that guy ever, ever.
Yeah,
it's just, Carmelo Anthony could have been that guy, of course. Now he's getting a little older and stuff now too, although he's having a fantastic start to the year and good for him. I mean, I actually like seeing Melo do well.
Yeah.
And I could see them going about halfway through this first half of the season, and you might see more Melo.
Yeah.
You might see more Melo, like the old school Melo, like give me the ball, because he actually looks like the Melo from Denver, starting out this season, which is absolutely amazing to see and fun to see, and even that Melo with more IQ, which is like, holy crap, get that dude the ball.
Yeah, and he's really, I mean, he's doing what he did in Portland.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
he's kind of more so under the spotlight now, but he just looks healthy. It looks like he's having fun. Looks like he's in a very good mental space, which is cool because he went through a little time where he was. I mean, a lot of people wrote him off. Melo's done. He ain't gonna be back in the league. And sure enough, he came back, and he's a big part of that Lakers team.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not just like a role player. He's been a big part of. I mean, he's
damn near the only part.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you think about it, they didn't have Melo on their squad, they'd really be struggling to put up points.
I mean, they'd be 2-5.
Probably.
Or, I mean, or 2-7 rather.
Yeah, and, he's bringing that spark that they desperately need right now. They desperately need some form of spark, and that's going to be a fun team to keep your eye on because Los Angeles, man, things get dramatic, and yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. But
I'm going to
talk. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm going to say after Christmas, somebody's going to have some major issues and start asking for a trade or something.
Well, we almost saw a fight break out. I mean, like the first game on their own bench. I mean, it's a ticking time bomb with the Lakers, man. And I'm here for it. I got my popcorn, man. I'm ready for it. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, there again, you have a lot of egos on the squad, and it's going to be up to them at the end of the day. Can they turn it around? I believe they can. Is it going to be a lot more difficult? Oh man, I think it's going to be more difficult than even they know. Because like you said, you cannot find yourself in too big of a hole in the West because a lot of this game is mental too. And like you said, it made a really good point earlier. If nobody's scared of you or nobody's really worried about you, like we can hoop with you guys. You ain't nothing special because you're the Lakers. I mean,
yeah,
we know LeBron's going to get his, but what are the rest of y'all going to do?
Yes.
And I think that's the approach most of these teams are taking. Like, okay, you think you got something, but hold on, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't scared of you, so which is good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny saying that about a LeBron James team.
I know. It's so crazy.
But yeah, I think it's where everyone's at. And it's no disrespect to the man. I mean, he's done his thing in the league, but the league's just too good.
It is.
The league's just too good, man. It's so good. I mean, we haven't even talked about Miami. I mean,
we ain't talked about Miami. We ain't talked about the Knicks, who are like been resurrected. They're like the Lazarus of the NBA. You know what I mean?
Dallas with Luka, and it's just it's crazy, man. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun year of basketball.
Exactly. It's an extremely well balanced league.
Yeah,
I feel like it's well balanced. I know people talk about the super teams and this and that. As we've seen, the Lakers prime example, you can think you're building a super team. You got Brooklyn, who's doing really well. They're at 700 at 7-3. You got Miami's just above them. Yeah. I mean, heck, even the Cavaliers are starting out good. I mean, man, and
yeah.
And I'll tell you, they got some good young players as well. And I went and watched Mobley, when he came to Salem and playing for that team out of California. And I didn't get to see him play, but because of that, I watched him play. And then when he went to USC, and I believe his brother is pretty good as well. And so he's starting out like looking like he's a fit for the NBA, and so watching guys like that is kind of fun.
Yeah. And another guy like that. I mean, have you seen much of Jordan Poole with the Warriors?
Oh yeah.
I mean, his last 4 games, the dude's put up 14 points, 31 points, 26 points, 25 points.
Yeah.
And it's just another weapon that this team's going to have down the stretch. And That'll
Like
be.
you said, they don't even have Clay.
Yeah, they don't even have Klay Thompson back,
I
man.
mean, oh my goodness, you get Clay in there. Whew.
Oh, and then Gary Payton Jr. He's in
Oh,
there locking people. They look good. They look good, man. Yeah, the Warriors, welcome back.
yeah,
Just
no
when
kidding.
people wrote them off, they're back and they're a force. They're a force. Steph
Big
Curry,
force.
man,
Yeah.
early MVP pick for sure.
Yeah. The only people that have that I would consider basement dwellers up to this point is the Pistons, the Pelicans, and the Rockets.
Yeah.
Although, as I said, I like that Green kid for the Rockets.
Ooh,
I like him a lot.
yes,
And
for sure.
I can see him being a future superstar. That kid is that good. I really, really like him.
Yeah, I agree. He's really good. He brings a lot to that team, and if they can build around him, they'll be back up in those standings in no time.
You know, and they kind of were. They were trying to get Bill at one time, I believe. You know, they've tried to grab some pieces. It just didn't work out this year. Well, so far anyway. You know, who knows? And then you got Zion and the Pelicans. You know, poor Zion. You want to talk about he was on top of the world for a while, and now he's kind of just chilling, man.
Jeez, no kidding.
He's got to be like, get me out of here, please. You know, he would never say that in the media, but you know,
Yeah,
they got to do something with that situation. And you know, which they traded off some pieces, and we'll see what they do with that. And like you said, Luca, you can't forget about him. Huh.
jeez. You know, one player that I would really like to see go somewhere else is your boy Brad Beal.
Oh, for
I would
sure.
love to see him go on a
Yeah.
team that is just stable, you know, and can actually make a run at it. Because I feel like that guy's been nothing but professional.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
you know, and I feel like he's so respected in the league. Like you don't hear his name a whole lot. I mean, you hear about him, but he's got like that Dame Lillard respect from people,
Right.
you know, and I'd like to see him go somewhere where he could really thrive. And they might have a good season this year, but I just don't think they're not all that.
You know, they're starting out good. You know, whether it's going to be long term, I think we talk. I would say we talk in January, February. They'll probably be, you know, subpar 500.
Yeah.
You know, but I think they'll throw. I mean, you got to think the East got a lot stronger. I mean, there's no denying that it got a lot stronger. And you know, kudos to Dame. You know, speaking of Mr. Dame Lillard, man, he's staying in Portland as up to this point. And he struggled starting out the first few games here, but you know, that's not going to be Dame very long. I already know that. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, man, I'll tell you what, gosh, if anybody has anything bad to say about that dude, I don't know what it would be. I mean, I just don't. I don't know what you would say bad about the guy. You know, he's tried to make it work. He's tried to tough it out. And I mean, nobody can say, wow, he didn't even give it a chance. My God, he gave it more than a chance. Most guys would have been gone 3 years ago, you know, like or been asking for a trade. I mean, imagine, you know, a guy like man, I feel like I keep picking on this guy, but like a Westbrook or somebody like that.
I'll pick on him, bro.
Yeah. He would have been like, hell, I want the hell out of here. Like, I mean, you guys ain't even putting no pieces around me. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
Or even a Kyrie, as good as Kyrie is, he'd have been in Portland crying. Like, we'd have had to give him a lifetime weekly drop off supply of Kleenexes. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, he'd have been like, man, they ain't got, you know. So,
yeah,
all respect to Dame Lillard. And I mean, the guy is a killer too. He could go anywhere and make that team a whole lot better very quickly.
Yeah, and he really hasn't. I mean, I think Aldridge was the only all-star he's played with. You know, and I don't think he's ever missed the playoffs. If he did it, it was 1 year. But I'm pretty sure that Dame has never missed the playoffs since getting drafted to Portland. Could be wrong.
Crazy. That is so
if he has, it's like I said, it's probably only a year, maybe two, but I'll have to look that up. But it's super impressive. And you would hope that with him coming out publicly and being so loyal and, kind of just putting an end to all the rumors, that they'll take that to heart and they'll go out and do something for the guy, because he wants to win. He wants to be in Portland, but the dude wants to win so bad, and come on, Portland, do something. Do something for him, because he's earned it for sure.
Yeah, get the guy somebody, man. Gosh, I could see so many different players that, I mean, I don't know anybody that's up, for free agency or trade or, whatever, but my God,
how about that? That would be so fun.
oh my gosh,
Bill and Lillard together. Come on.
that
would be such a good fit. Maybe that's our hot take today, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
Basketball.
Ring it up. Come on, Portland office, make it happen. Let's get him in here. Let's get him in here by the end of after Thanksgiving. Let's get him in here.
Yeah, do it. Sorry, CJ, gotta go.
Yeah, CJ, my man. Hey, appreciate you. But good luck on your next venture. Good luck in Houston.
Yeah.
That's wrong. CJ's a tough
Yeah,
dude.
it is. I know.
But
he is tough.
Yeah, he is. Anyway, all right, let's move on, man. I want to do a brief segment on fact or fiction. This is going to be a fun one. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, number one, the Cowboys will be in the Super Bowl this year. Fact or fiction?
Fiction, man. I'm a Cowboy fan. I say it proudly, but like I said, bro, I think it's gonna be either Arizona or Tom Brady from the NFC going back to that Super Bowl. Cowboys are good, don't get me wrong, but they got very exposed today, and I want to be accurate on these answers for you, man. So I got to take bias out of it. But if they do make it, I'm not going to be mad.
All right. Number two, Georgia will win the national title in college football.
I'm going to go with fact on that. And we covered that one a little bit earlier. They're tough. And it's a mixture of Georgia being really tough and not many other teams really being all that this year, in my opinion. Yep. And so that's not anything away from Georgia. They might not win it, but they definitely seem favorite so far.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good one. This is funny after we were just talking about this. The LA Lakers will be a complete bust this year. Fact or fiction?
Big fact there. That's a big fact, man. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking promising. And I don't know. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, it's I don't think you do, really. I mean, I think it's just going to be what it is. And yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, number 4, Texas Longhorns will be in the Final Four in college basketball. And I had to stress that college basketball and not football, because we know they ain't doing it in football. Poor Ryan. Poor Palmer.
Poor Palmer. Well, I'll have his back here. I'm going to say fact on that. Go Longhorns. You seem to be pretty high on them, huh?
I'll tell you what, I like them a lot. They are going to be a force, and it was good to see them when I looked at the rankings. It's good to see them up as high as 5, preseason.
Right.
If they don't get hurt, let me stress that. If none of their key guys get hurt, I'm telling you right now, Texas is going to be a force. They are going to be super good. Yeah. So I just, it's going to be fun to watch them this year. I'm going to try to catch as many of their games as I can. They got some really solid players, man. And yeah, that'll be fun.
Well, you got me curious. I'm going to have to tune in. So Shaka's not there anymore though, correct?
No, he is not.
Okay.
They got a kid from St. Louis, that kid that Dave was talking about way back in episode 2. They got him, but they got a lot of guys. They got another guard. Yeah, they got a few guys that are just but I was going through their rosters and just looking at some of the highlights and different things, like I think there was a flash of some practice or something. I was like, oh God, they look good. So I think that I think they will be in the Final Four. I'm going to say fact on that. like I say, posing no injuries or none of that stuff, I would be shocked if they're not. All right. Number 5, nobody cares about your vaccination status or your political agenda in sports. Fact or fiction?
Seems to be fiction. Seems to be all people care about.
Yeah, I know. I'm not even going to cheer or buzzer that one. That's just, yeah. I think
it's not even about how you perform out there anymore. It's
not.
about your vaccination status.
It's did you get the jab, man? Did you get it done?
So weird.
You got to care about people. Yeah, anyway, I'll move away from that for that ends up being a whole nother episode. We'll have to change the name to the podcast. Anyway, all right. And then the final, number 6, Coach K is the greatest coach ever in college basketball.
Fact.
All right.
I know. Is it you who loves John Wooden? Or was it?
Oh yeah, John Wooden was.
Was that your guy? I feel like there was a coach, an older coach that you were pretty high on. I can't remember which one.
Dean Smith.
Thank you. There it is. Dean Smith.
Yep. He was one of my favorite college coaches ever. Yeah. That's why I was wondering. I was pausing, waiting. I'm like, God, what's he gonna say on this one? Because this is tough. Like, I can't say that he's not, but I can't say he is really. I think there's lots of great coaches, your John Woodens, your Dean Smiths, your Bobby Knights, and there's many others. I could continue to go on. Yeah, that was a tough one. When I was writing that down, I was like, wow, how would I respond to that? I'm like, man, I don't know. It's hard to say no, he's not,
I think for me with Coach K, obviously what he did at Duke was incredible, to be there that long, to build the culture he built. But one of the most impressive things about that I saw with him was when he went and coached Team USA.
Yes.
I thought that showed a lot about him as a coach, and to make that jump from coaching where he's comfortable, he's the guy, to go coaching all these superstars, and just the chemistry that they had. And I thought that said a lot about him for sure. Yeah. As a coach, just be able to go there and do that. And
you know what? I couldn't agree more. And that was one thing that solidified that for me too, because when you have that many egos in the building and they all submit and automatically respect you that highly.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say that what Coach K said was what it was and what it was going to be, and end of story,
Yeah.
For a guy to walk into that kind of locker room with that kind of respect, dude, man, it's hard to go against that. I just feel like that's what makes him so good, is that he's a player or a coach that players can respect and that they really enjoy, and they love having conversations with them and talking to him, and they're probably not, oh, that's just coach being coach. There's probably not a whole lot of those type of remarks after talking to him. I'm just guesstimating. I'm not saying that is what it is, but
well, for sure. And to think, Team USA, you're talking about, they took the best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
Put them on a team, and then they took a coach from college to come coach them, and I think that just says so much about who he is, because like to walk into the locker room and take command, and those players who, some of them didn't even go to college, they went straight to the league, but they all looked up to the guy so much. So yeah, man, he's a legend, and it's weird without him coaching.
This is the last year, man. This is it. This is
it. Okay, so this is the final run.
This is his farewell tour.
Gotcha.
It's his last time. That is going to, next
trip.
year is going to be weird, because it's going to be like, wow, who's going to coach now? So yes, definitely one of my favorites. And oh, wait a minute. What's happening? Oh,
time to go.
Is this the exit strategy? I guess so. All right, that will wrap up episode 7. We will see y'all next week. Please share, like, subscribe, like Mr. Palmer was saying earlier. We'll try to get him as many people on that YouTube channel. I want to see him get Lawrence on there. Yeah. That ought to be interesting. All right. We love y'all. God bless you. Peace.